Welcome people to Tips and Tricks Part 2. So it's been a while since I've made a tips and tricks video, and I thought it would be nice to give you some more tips and tricks. I divided the tips and tricks in a few categories. So first we have miscellaneous, then we have harbor/ships, then we have land use, and we have resources. So let's start off with miscellaneous. Alright, this tip will be about zooming. So this is the maximum that I can zoom in, and this is the maximum that I can zoom out. But with the bigger islands and in general it's more convenient if it's possible to zoom out further. So I found a few mods online which you can use to zoom out further, but I actually found a way to do it in the game itself. So what you can basically do, you can bind locations to an F key. So for example F6, right? This is F6 with me, so I jump back to that camera location. And if you do that for F9 and F10, so let me see, for example F9 here, it will make a rotating movement, right? So you can actually abuse this to zoom out further. So what you're going to do, when you lower your camera, there will be a point that it gets stuck, right? So it gets stuck here. So the camera won't move any lower, but you can actually move up your point of view, right? So I'm going to look a little higher, like this. I'm going to bind this location to F9. Then to do that you press Ctrl F9, move away. Oh, sometimes it doesn't rotate. Now it's rotating. Okay, so as you can see, I'm in the crowd now. This is really weird. What you have to do, you have to click on a random building, and now I'm zoomed out a little further than possible. This is maximum, and you can play around a little bit with this. I found this zoom really nice, and you can actually zoom out further, but that will pretty much break the graphics because roads will disappear and it gets a little glitchy, but this is really useful. So yeah, on to the next tip. Alright, harbors and ships. First of all, it's a really good idea to plan ahead your harbor. So for example, on this island I want to have few things, right? I want fissures, I want sand to make glass. So what you want to do here is start off on one of the sides, doesn't really matter which one. Let's just use the blueprint mode now. So I want, for example, 4 fisheries, right? 4 fisheries. I want, let's say, 6 of these. Alright. Now let's say I want 8. So now I only have 1 square of wasted space here. Afterwards, you can use the pier, for example, if you have a lot of traffic on your island. And as you can see, this is blocked, but I can still build my pier over here. Right, so build a few piers. So let's say this is all I want on this island. Now I can filter gaps with, first of all, the harbor master, and next you can fill the gaps with depots to make your storage bigger. And in this way you can maximize the use of the beach right? Alright, on to the next tip. Alright, so this is a warfare tip. You can actually buy the black flag at the pirates. It's a really useful thing to, without actually triggering war, to still attack opponents. So let me show you how it works. When I click the flag, I can actually attack him without him knowing that it's me. So I'm not triggering a war, but I can still attack his ships. Alright, that was it for the harbor / ship tips. On to the land use tips. Alright, first of all, you gotta think about the layout that you want to use. So on this island I'm using a 3x3 layout. The reason for that is it looks nice and you can plant fountain or whatever inside of it, which will beautify the city. But it's not the most efficient way of planning your island. So let's see an example of a more efficient way to plan your island. It's by using a 2x X layout. So the longer you stretch the house blocks, the more efficient it is. But you do have to keep in mind that you still have to fulfill all their wishes, right? But this will lower the amount of street that you need.
The festival has ended.
If you compare it to the amount of houses. This is more useful for productions. For a main island I would not use that because it just looks really awful. So the next tip is about planning your island. So once you've built your trading post, it's the most convenient way is by starting your village on one side of the island, starting plantations on the other side of the island. You got to keep in mind if you want to use the ore, the mines, and if you want to use the oil, you got to plan that ahead before planting everything, because otherwise you're going to run into problems later. Also keep in mind if you want to use the beach. And in this way, by starting on two sides of the island, you can basically build this side to the other side, and then they meet at some point and you've used all of the island basically. And that's the most efficient way, in my opinion. Alright, so the next tip is about maximizing land use again. So you can limit the amount of warehouses that you need by, if possible of course, planting the production chain next to each other. So let me see, this guy over here is producing sand. It doesn't need to be connected to a warehouse, it can be directly connected to the glassmaker, and on his turn the glassmaker can be directly connected to the champagne cellar. This way, if you do it like this, you almost need, well, in this case I only need one warehouse. If I didn't plan it like this, I would need at least, let's say, 4 warehouses, and they use a lot of space. It's not really convenient. Of course, for plantations, you're going to need more warehouses because it's not really possible to plant them all here. It's you need too many of them. But if possible, I would definitely use this technique. Alright, so the first tip considering resources is using your newspaper. So this actually takes a lot of influence points, so you're going to need some investors to do this, but it will save you a lot of resources. So the newspaper is awaiting my approval now, and if I go to edit, I can use austerity, whatever it's called, and just use every one of them, right? Publish. This will negatively influence the happiness of your citizens. So it will lower it with 15 points actually, and increase the right chance with 100, but you can counter this by, well, doing everything else right and building a lot of police stations. But it will also lower the need of consumptions with 68%, and that's a lot, I can tell you that. If you don't do this, it's literally impossible to create big cities, because resources are pretty scarce and it's just not possible. I tried to figure out the most useful way to use the paper, and this always comes up as the most useful way, so I would suggest also using this method. On to the next tip. Alright, this tip is also about getting more resources. Basically, once you run out of certain resources, this island, Eli Bleaksworth Harbor, whatever, the prison island, it can provide you with a lot of ores, like zinc, copper, gold, basically almost everything. Not too expensive. You can definitely use this to make products and make a little profit. So that's very useful. On to the next one. Another tip considering getting more resources is placing power plants nearby mines. As you can see, this mine is running at plus 250%. It should reach. Of course, you can change the working conditions, but power gives you more production. It's more useful. On to the next one. Alright, so next tip is about beautifying your island, or raising the attractiveness. Why do you want to do that? Because it gives you special visits, like this guy. They're really useful in some cases. Let me show you a few examples. So this person will give, it will provide electricity. It will lower the workforce that's needed by 20%. So that's pretty much really useful. And you can get more visitors by having more beauty points, attractiveness. So in this case I have a probability of 52.5% to get a guest. That's pretty high. And you can raise the attractiveness of your city by building musea and gardens. But the museum and the zoo are the easiest. So let me show you real quick over here. I have a lot of stuff in here. A lot of legendary stuff. And this will crank up the attractiveness really fast. So how can you do that? Alright, so it starts, you need the DLC. And it starts over here. So this guy over here, he sells maps. Like this one. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to buy the map. You can actually do this in bulk. That's even easier. So once I click this map, it will show me a treasure hunt map, and I go to the spot. This is actually the spot, and you can do multiple maps at once. So let's say you do 20, you don't really have to search, you just go around the map with your salvager, pick everything up. So here it already gives the location, and this will give you a lot of legendary items or epic items, which you can just place in the zoo to raise the attractiveness. And with the attractiveness you get more visitors, better visitors. So that's a really helpful tip to get more nice visitors. Alright, that was it for this video. If you liked it, please leave a like and a comment and subscribe to my channel. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!